Hi, I am Elizabeth Floyd, and today I want to show you my archival painting panels that I use to complete oil sketches and different exercises I use in my classes that I teach. Okay, so these are my Gessoed museum board panels that I use for my oil sketches and exercises that I in my painting classes. I teach some group classes and semi-private classes, and we do different exercises that of lessons that I teach about edge quality, color, and just painting techniques in general. And I find that these Gessoed museum board panels are excellent surfaces to paint oil sketches on, but also just in general. And what makes them so wonderful is that they stack up very conveniently. They don't take up much space, and they are very easy to make. I usually make batches. I'll buy like 5 to 10 sheets of 100% cotton rag museum board, typically from Dick Blick, and I'll do like 5 or 10 sheets at a time, and I use the 32 by 40 inch sheets, so that means that they break down easily into some nice sizes. 8 by 10s. I do also some 12 by 8s, and it just works out into some really nice shapes and dimensions. Now, if you can see, I obviously completed some. One level is one panel is darker than the other, and that is because I use Joe's Prime Really Good Gesso, and I will mix a quart at a time, and I mix, because it's an acrylic gesso, I mix acrylic paint into my gesso, so that way from the get-go, well, actually, I usually do 2 layers of gesso straight, and then of white gesso, and then the next 2 layers are the toned gesso. I spread the gesso onto my sheets with this. It's for latex paints, high density foam rollers, and these are the 4-inch rollers, and you can use one of these systems. It's really inexpensive to buy. I just dip because I use the 4-inch, it's very easily to just dip it into the gesso tub, and then I spread it out, and by doing a full sheet at a time, you cover a lot of area very quickly. And then because it's museum board, it cuts down so well that you can very easily make the dimensions that you want with just an X-Acto knife. Now, one thing about the acrylic gesso that I'm not crazy about is that it doesn't have very good tooth. To me, it's too slippery. So I also will add some powdered marble to my gesso. And what I do is when it's wet, before I start applying it, I actually will run a little bit of the wet gesso between my fingers like this, and it will tell me whether or not if I've got enough grit or not in my mixture. I also try not to, or actually, it's not a try. It's important to not overload your gesso mixture with too much powder. So the truth is you should stay below 20% in volume of marble powder to the gesso. In fact, my goal is to stick around 10%. And like if I use a quart, I actually will do the math, and typically what I'll do is I'll start with a new tub of gesso and do my first 2 layers of gesso, which will be white and without the pumice or the marble dust. And then by that time I'll have emptied up some of my gesso, and then between each coat I also let it dry, which it dries very quickly because it's acrylic, so it dries very fast. And then I add the volume to the mixture, and that's pretty much it for how I want to do it. And And I think for my gray tone, I use my favorite neutral gray mixture, which is burnt umber with ultramarine blue. And I mix the two together until I get what I want. Oh, and I forgot a very important aspect of these Gessoed panels is that the backside, in order to prevent warping, the backside also must have an impermeable, I can't pronounce words very well. It must have another surface on it, so that way humidity will not penetrate into your cotton and make it warp. And I use just plain old flat latex paint. That works really well. And I use like bare, white, flat, and you can get it from Home Depot. In fact, actually, I sometimes use the same white that I've used on walls in my house before. And it's very simple, and you just do you make sure you do 2 layers. So the goal is the goal is to have 4 layers of gesso on your top, on your paintable side, and 2 layers of latex on the back. I also will do with a very fine tooth, so 220 tooth sandpaper with I will slightly sand down my surface so that way any of the nape that occurs when you're painting using the rollers can also be knocked down with the sanding. And I think that's it, what I want to cover for how to make the Gessoed panels. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, please be sure to ask me and let me know what you think. Or if you have any additional questions, I would be happy to maybe do another video. I probably won't do a video of the actual making of these Gessoed panels for a while, because I actually have almost a year's worth of panels completed. I think I made these panels probably 2 years ago, and I've been steadily working through them every week, and they're very, very helpful to have in the studio.